Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming along again today. I know we'll have a few people joining. I can see the number even rising now. Thank you for coming along once again. So my name's Stuart. I am a IT manager here at UTS working on the Canvas project and also a Canvas coach working in the online Canvas community. So this is our new timing for the community meetup. So as you probably know, we've shifted this time so that we're close to the beta release notes. We don't have anyone covering off the beta release notes today, but hopefully in the next couple of sessions we can have a look through. I'm going to cover 1 or 2 points that I think might be beneficial for everyone today. And I'd like to thank Jayde and Colleen who helped me out. Jayde's here. She might want to say a quick hello.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope.
We can.
Oh, that's good. Hello. I hope you're all really well. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. And hopefully Colleen will jump in as well at some point. Alrighty, so what we're going to go through today. So we'll do a quick welcome to our new members. I've seen a couple of new faces around. We'll do a quick roundup for anyone who wants to give a quick update on what they're doing, just a quick 30 seconds per person. The change of date, apologies, I forgot to remove that. We'll quickly go through the review of the top priorities. Kiran, who works with me here at UTS, will go through the Zoom LTIs and upcoming enhancements roadmap that we've been working with Zoom on. Mark Vandervelde will go through Microsoft Office LTI experiences. A few people wanted to go through and have a bit of a chat to understand how the Microsoft Office LTI works and some of the issues that they've faced through that. Jayde is going to take us through a wonderful discussion on the new Turnitin plagiarism framework, which I can say for one, I'm very eager to have a bit of insights into. Then we're going to go through a couple of administrative things towards the end. So, new members, if there's anyone here that's new that would like to say a quick hello, please just put up your hand and feel free to say howdy, tell us who you are, where you're working, and we'd love to get to know you.
This is my first time here. So my name's Marion Weeks and I'm with TasTAFE in Launceston, Tasmania, but we're a statewide organisation.
Excellent, welcome. It's lovely to have you on board.
I'm Caitlin Halliwell from Swinburne University. I'm the Manager of Learning Technologies and Innovations, so part of Mark's team, or Mark is part of my team. And Barb, I think, is online today as well. So
excellent. And I saw Kate's raised her hand. Kate, if you'd like to say howdy.
Hi, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, we can.
Great. I too am with TasTAFE. I work with Marion, and we're on our first full year of implementing Canvas, and we're really enjoying the journey and looking forward to being part of this group.
Excellent. Thank you. Lovely to have you on board. Barbara.
Hi, yes, Barbara Compey. I work with Caitlin and Mark Vandervelde at Swinburne University. It's my first time joining this, so if I make mistakes, hopefully that'll be okay. Okay.
Not at all. It's lovely to have you on board, and I know the first time I used Zoom a couple of times ago, I even had a few issues, so I'm sure we can help each other through. And Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael Marja. I just started at UTS this week and I work with Stuart.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. It's lovely to see some great new faces. And I can say things are just growing in the APAC community. I'm seeing people sharing things in the community now, which is great. I'm seeing a lot more activity. I know I'm certainly a lot more active in there, and I think it's great because it's wonderful to share our ideas. Damien's raised his hand.
Yeah, hi guys. It took me a while to find out where the raise hand function was. I'm from Mr. Wed Training and Assessment. I'm based in North Brisbane. We're an RTO throughout Australia and do a lot of training overseas as well. And we've been with Canvas now for, I think it's about 5 years. So very excited to meet you all. Hi guys.
Excellent. Lovely to meet you as well. And it's great to see. I know when we first started out, quite a few of us were from higher ed. It's great to start to see some of the other areas. You may have noticed some header image changes in the community. I actually changed the APAC header image because I wanted to represent a little bit more of that mix that we have of different community members. Certainly having vet, RTO, K-12, as well as higher ed. I know Amelia's just raised her hand.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amelia. I'm a customer success manager here at Canvas. I also have Jen, who is also a customer success manager. And we're just here to sort of sit in, and if you've got any questions, I guess we're here to help as well.
Thank you very much. Alrighty. So is there anyone that would like to give a quick update on anything they're doing, anything interesting, anything that they'd like to just share with the group, a quick 30-second couple of bullet points? If so, again, please just raise your hand and we can give you the floor. Okay, looks like nothing this time. That's okay. So the change of date cycle. So this is our first change in the date for moving closer to sort of the beta release cycles. We haven't really got much that we're going through in the beta release notes today. However, I would be curious if anyone wants to put up their hand for the next meeting, which is in April, to take us for a walkthrough in some of the beta release notes. I think that'd be really useful, and I'd really welcome anyone that might like to even just message me or put a message in chat if you'd be interested on walking the group through some of the interesting things coming up in the beta release notes. I'd like that to be something we do more regularly because I think it's really good for us to be able to have a look through before things go to production, and we have an opportunity to then give feedback back into in structure. And Colleen's just said she's happy to do that, so that would be lovely. Thank you, Colleen. So we might look at doing that next time. Okay, so I'll do a quick review of the top priorities for APAC. This is something that some of you will have seen, some of you won't at the moment. Give me a second. I'm just going to switch to my Google Chrome sharing. Okay, won't be a moment. So one thing I set up previously was the APAC areas of priority document. This is something that has sort of been a living document, and I know a few people have been adding to it, which is great. So the idea behind this document is that we can all share the things that are a priority for our institution. We can help we can have some discussions on those, and then we can look to vote on what the priorities are for us as a region, because there are going to be some things where APAC does things differently. I know some people will probably nod their heads when I say courses and subjects. That's one that's always been difficult for us. But I think that it's important that we as a community sort of say, look, these are the things that we would love to focus on. So if you haven't had a chance, I would highly recommend having a bit of a poke here in the community. I've linked to the document on the CanvasLIVE event, so you can have a look at that. There's been some great things put up here, especially surrounding some integration issues, the terms of service, and I know that's one that has certainly we looked at as well. So Jen Miller put that up for us. So what I'd really love for people to do is have a bit of a look here. I've gone through, and for most of them, there's a couple that I haven't had a chance to yet. I've actually added a detailed document. So what we can do is we can actually start filling this out with a little bit more detail to find out, does this need a feature ID? Is there a feature idea already in the community? And that can give us an opportunity to really, I guess, work together. So if you haven't had a chance to have a look at that, I'd highly recommend it. And I'd really love to see people's thoughts if they find that useful, and if there's something that they'd like to contribute, or if there might be a little bit of a working party we could put together to help flesh some of these ideas out further. Alrighty. Okay, I will now hand over to Kiran Mohan, who's going to go through some upcoming changes in the Zoom LTI and some enhancements that UTS has requested.
Cool. Hi, Kiran, and I work as a senior system analyst here at UTS. in the Canvas project. So Zoom is something we recently implemented at UTS. We've also been using the Zoom Canvas LTI. So I just thought I'll just give a quick update on our experience with the Zoom Canvas LTI, like what are the quirks when you're configuring the LTI and what are the enhancements we've requested the vendor to do for us. So I have a document, so I'll share this document with the community in the event after this meeting. So to start with, the Zoom LTI is basic in Canvas. For example, all an academic staff can do is schedule meetings using the Zoom LTI in Canvas. And when you schedule a meeting using the LTI, it triggers an Canvas message to all the users enrolled in the course. And it also updates a calendar event associated to the course. So this is pretty much what the Zoom LTI does. And in addition to that, there are two configuration options which is available in the Zoom support website when you initially want to test or configure the Zoom Canvas LTI. So one is configuring using developer keys, and the other one is configuring using access tokens. So when you start to explore the Zoom LTI, this is something which confuses everyone, especially me. I got confused because there's two ways you can configure Zoom LTI in Canvas. So we tested both the methods using the developer key and the access tokens. And initially, when we were using the access tokens, we found out that there are some authentication issues when you are using the access token. So we decided to go with the developer key option. So I heard recently that the configuration using the access token issue has been fixed. So I've highlighted that in this document. So, and Zoom LTI shows only for staff users in Canvas. For example, someone who has a teacher, TA, course designer role can see Zoom LTI in the course navigation, but students do not see the Zoom LTI in Canvas. So, and some other things to highlight is once a calendar event or a message is sent to all users enrolled in the course, the students basically click on the Zoom link in the Zoom meeting link in the event or in the inbox, and they get taken directly to the Zoom web app, and that's where they do all the meetings and all the stuff. And when we implemented Zoom, the LTI did not provision users. That is when you're using Zoom for the first time in Canvas and you do not already have a Zoom account associated to the instance which is hooked up with Canvas, you would get an error saying you do not have a Zoom account. So this is something which we were missing a lot when we went live, but we requested this enhancement and Zoom delivered it recently to us, where the LTI now provisions users if the user does not already exist. But there's still a quirk with this where the LTI provision users with a type called Pro and not a type called Corporate. So we're still waiting for that fix from Zoom. The reason is Pro accounts, if anyone who's already with Zoom know that Zoom is delivered through a company called RNet in Australia. So Pro accounts are hosted in the Zoom US instance, whereas a corporate account is hosted through RNet in Australia. So that's something which we're still waiting for Zoom to fix for us. And some more enhancements or issues which we've already reported to Zoom, and it's mainly related to how tightly Zoom is integrated with Canvas. So one issue to highlight is every time someone tries to access Zoom through Canvas, they are asked to authorize and authenticate Zoom. This is something which we found as an issue because when you're using an LTI for the first time, you need to authenticate and authorize it, but not every time you're using it. So that's something we've told our Zoom to fix. And then we also have asked Zoom to enhance the LTI to show up for students in the course navigation and also in the group spaces, because Zoom is at University of Technology Sydney, we're going to use it as a collaboration tool. So for students to be able to use Zoom in Canvas directly and not go outside Canvas to use it would be a great help. So that's one thing we've asked Zoom to fix for us. So, and it's in their roadmap. And another issue is in Canvas, when you want to edit a calendar invite, which is associated to a Zoom meeting, it does not reflect directly in the Zoom interface or does not edit the Zoom meeting itself. And the other way too, if you want to edit a meeting in Zoom, it does not reflect the calendar in events. So that's something which we found out as an issue or a bug, and we've asked Zoom to fix it too. And one thing which anyone using Zoom LTI would feel as an issue is the date format which shows in the LTI is the US format, and there's no language package or anything associated for us to fix it to the Australian format. So that's something which we've asked Zoom to fix it for us. And the Zoom LTI again does not show up in the conferences tab. So this is something which is like a wish list for us. So we've asked if Zoom can work with Instructure to integrate it in the conferences tab, like the other features which show up in Canvas currently. And there's also a couple of bugs which we identified. So this is still pending for Zoom to fix. For example, the meeting start and end times are the same in the calendar event, which gets written when you when you schedule a meeting using the LTI. So that's something which is pending fix. There's also a misleading error message when you try to delete a meeting in Canvas. If someone's already joined the meeting, or if you have a co-host who's already joined the meeting and you're trying to delete the meeting, it just throws a JSON error. So that's something we recently identified and I've told Zoom about it, and we're working on a fix for that. So these are some of the stuff which we found initially when implementing Zoom in Canvas, and these are some of the issues we found when we were testing Zoom before it went live. So the vendor has worked well with us, and they've promised some fixes, and they've given a roadmap on when they're going to do these fixes. But if you're already using Zoom LTI, or if you are planning to use Zoom LTI, these are some of the quirks which you should know. And maybe if you need any help, you can contact me through the community too, with relation to configuration. I've spent some time on Zoom LTI, so I'll be able to help you with configuration and other stuff too. Cool. So I'll share this document with you guys in the community, and if there's any questions, just ping me. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Kiran. There's a question from Mark. Is iNet still keeping the cloud recordings in Cloud Store? My understanding is that is true.
That is true.
The last time I tested that, yep.
Yeah,
perfect.
And we at the ADS also have Cultura, but there's no integration with Zoom and Cultura through the RNet code base yet, but Zoom in the US has an integration with Cultura, so we're waiting on that too. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And I know we'd be curious to have a chat to anyone else that has Zoom or is looking at getting Zoom that might want to collaborate on helping to champion for some of these changes with the vendor.
Yeah.
So certainly feel free to reach out to Kiran or myself. Thank you very much for that, Kiran.
Cool. Thanks.
I will now pass over to Mark Vandervelde to discuss the Microsoft Office LTI experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. Look, first I'm just going to post up a link here I've got. This is from last year. This is just in the chat. I've just put a link there. This is something from last year when I did the initial testing, I guess, of the Office LTI. There was, and still is, very limited information, I guess, as to how the LTI was sort of intended to work, or the actual documentation I found initially, there's just non-existent. So I tried to do a lot of testing to understand actually what happens when you used the LTI, and what was what the actual interactions were between Canvas and your own Office instance. And we've got, I managed to get, I guess, down to quite a lot of information, which sort of, led us to make the decision to go ahead with the installation. Probably at the moment we are experiencing, I guess, a lot of instances of problems that we're trying to find what the actual issues are. So I think at the moment, one of the reasons we brought this up was because I had a conversation with one or two others as well from other unis about the kind of issues that they were hitting. One of the things that's really tricky with Office that I've found from our installations, certainly from what I've looked at from others, is the initial setup of the institution's Office instance is quite important. What IT does to the organisation and how they allow teachers and students to share documents will determine whether or not this LTI is going to work at all. And that's really where you'll hit all of your first set of problems when you install the LTI, is actually getting that really high level set of, or the understanding of what you actually require. So it can be quite frustrating because of, it can quite often be an IT related issue, as in, you've got to go back to your IT department, have a chat to them about, how the settings have been set for Office, and then trying to work out whether or not that's actually affecting the LTI itself. Because you have, the teacher and the student has to have OneDrive available. They have to be under the same institution organisation, and they also have to be allowed to share documents between each other. So teachers and students have to be allowed to share documents. So if all of those things, those sort of key settings haven't been set, only one of them can be not there, and then suddenly the LTI, essentially is useless. So at least we've got all those things working at Swinburne. All of those things we've got out of the way early on, thankfully. We just happen to be sort of implementing a change to our Office settings as well at the same time we implemented the LTI. So it was sort of an opportunity for us to actually get those settings all right at the same time. Probably the experience, we only had a few courses really running between then and now. So we've only had maybe 10 units running at sort of the last 6 months at the end of last year. Now we've got about 100 units. And we've only really had a few of those who have actually started to look at using more of the tools themselves, like using the collaborations tool. So now we're sort of starting to hit where the issues of actual usability of the tool are. And so that's sort of where I guess at the moment the discussion that I'm interested in is to see where other people who are actually using the tool, to see where they may have gotten. We seem to have hit, I guess, what I think are session timeout issues in relation to the LTI, but I haven't really been able to clarify them myself. And I'm looking at doing a bit more testing internally to try and clarify whether or not they're an issue with, our network, the LTI, or Office itself. And because there's so many sort of players in this LTI, or this configuration, it can be quite hard to identify the actual issues. So we have had instances, I guess, where multiple students have tried to use the LTI at the same time in a class, and they've had certain timeout issues, and that's, you know, resulted in them going off and using, obviously, you know, Google Drive or something else, which isn't what we want to have. So we're, I guess, interested to hear from other universities as to what their experiences have been, and if they're having any particular issues that they think they may know where they're coming from, or they're also having troubles with, or anyone who just has questions on Office LTI in general.
Can you hear me? It's Kim Schutz here.
Yeah.
You're probably one step ahead of us. We were doing a fair bit of work with OneDrive and the LTI, and some of the things that we found out were a bit frustrating, in particular that the OneDrive for Business program, it did actually let you share documents between students, but it always seemed to want an email sent to the student, and they had to accept, and once they accepted, they permanently had access to the file. And so that may be what you're talking about with the sharing between. I thought that one of the settings called share with anyone in the organisation might fix that, and it didn't. One thing we did find out, which probably doesn't help that much, is that if you set up a personal OneDrive account and it's not related to your university account, and you set the file to public, then you'll find that you can share it within Canvas without too many problems. It's just that I guess it's open to the world. So that's one of the discoveries we found, and what we're trying to do is to embed PowerPoint so they appear in a windows with interactivity within Canvas, and that did work. So it worked either if you made it public on a personal OneDrive account, or it worked if you embedded it with a OneDrive for Business account, but you had to go through that acceptance process, which was a bit inconsistent, and in the end it was just too hard.
Yeah, I should note actually something that I think Caitlin has just mentioned as well, is that one of the things that we did at Swinburne as well is we also used the Azure single sign-on service for Canvas. So students actually log into Canvas using Azure AD. So when they're in Canvas, they've already authenticated against the Microsoft Office authentication system. So they only have to approve once Office at some point in Canvas to link into their profile, and then after that, basically any Office, or generally most of the Office tools, become a lot more smooth between when they're actually using it in the course, and when they click on to access something, there's usually that additional sign-in is not required because they're already signed in essentially to Office when they came into Canvas in the first place. The other thing that's probably worth mentioning, I tried to sort of detail it in that original document, was you really have to think of the collaborations tool as sort of when it gives, it sort of manages the initial access to users. So say you create with collaborations a Word document, that Word document ends up on your personal OneDrive folder, and essentially the LTI is managing who has the initial access. So if you've dropped in a class of people, or your group, 3 or 4 people, the first thing that essentially it does, it says, yes, this person can have access. And after that, that person essentially is given access actually in your OneDrive account to that file. And so that file itself will have in the shared area, it'll say it's been shared with that person once they've gone through Canvas the first time. And after that, they can just access it directly through OneDrive, or, if they wanted to, or they can still go in through the normal way. But essentially after that, the Office LTI is kind of handing off the management of that permission really to OneDrive from there on. So if you delete the file, or you remove that person, it's sort of you're essentially able to override anything that LTI was trying to do if you just go into your own OneDrive and start playing around with the actual document that you've set up in the first place, which can also, of course, have its own problems where if a student creates a document, shares it with a whole lot of people, and then goes into their OneDrive and deletes it, it's obviously now no longer there, so none of the other students can access it. So yeah, so trying to understand how a lot of that worked was, yeah, what I tried to, I guess, point out in that original document.
I was just going to add that my understanding of Canvas is that there's a Canvas doc viewer that, for example, if you have a PowerPoint, it sort of converts it to a PDF. It'd be very nice if that doc viewer actually called up PowerPoint online and thus gave you the interactivity that PowerPoint offers. And I guess the same with Excel and other documents, but I don't know if Microsoft's going to give us that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can add to that. I think my understanding is at one point that actually was built in to, or there was a document viewer. I'm trying to remember the name of it, that was available for a period of time, but then they took it offline to do something to fix it up. Because I do remember noting down that Canvas was going to add that feature back in to allow the embedding of full viewable Word documents. I don't think it was to edit them. I think it was just to view them. So you could view a Word document or an Excel document in a pre sort of viewable way. So you didn't have to go click and open it up in a new tab. You could just see it within the actual sort of frame itself. So I'm not sure when that's coming back. But yeah, I do remember noting down that they had taken it offline for a period.
Yeah, I read somewhere recently they were talking about bringing it back in, but don't know when.
Mm. So has anybody else implemented Office at all or thinking about it?
We've been pondering it here at UTS. Unfortunately, we're still just waiting for the final stages of getting all of our staff on Office 365. So completing the migration from local exchange to getting them in. Our students were first and foremost. Once that's completed, we're certainly looking at giving it a go. I remember originally one of the concerns I've had, and I don't know if it's since been addressed, is if a lecturer is logged in with their personal sort of OneDrive account or Office 365 account, and that creates a link. To get that unlinked, you actually have to go through support, and it's a manual process. So that's, I guess, a bit of a training issue to make sure that they are linking their institutional account. If that's a concern for us, I'd say it probably would be. But that's something that we're very much looking into, just waiting for it to be completed.
We also have it, this is Marianne from TasTape, we have it as an LTI, but a lot of people haven't been using it yet, so I haven't got a lot of stuff to comment on, but it hasn't been very smooth, I've got to be honest. And the whole thing about the first time you've got to go, and it takes about 5 screens to get it working, and it just, I don't know if it's just our network, but it seems sometimes really slow and times out before you can open it, and I don't know, it just hasn't been great, I'll be honest. But that's not very helpful probably. We have single sign-on with it.
Colin here from Sydney. We've got a problem that we have our staff and students in different tenancies, so it doesn't work very well. I posted a link which I think you can view from outside the uni, which is we did a comparison of Office, Dropbox, which we also have a license for, and Google Drive. And Google Drive actually seems to be the most compatible, even though it's not something we support institutionally. So I know a lot of staff actually prefer Google Drive, even though we've got Office for all staff and students. There is.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any last questions or thoughts on the Office LTI? Alrighty, I might jump back to PowerPoint. Okay, Jade, I'll hand over to you to discuss the Turnitin Plagiarism framework.
Thank you. Okay, so recently we have talked with Turnitin, and we've had a look at the new Turnitin plagiarism framework, and we actually have that implemented in one of our test environments now, and we're about to start testing and going through the framework and providing feedback to Turnitin. But what I really wanted to kind of speak to everybody about today is just see if anybody else was at this stage, or if they're working with Turnitin as well, or if I think someone did write in the comments on the community that they are.
That was, I think.
Yeah. Oh, who said that?
Marion from TasTape. We just tested it.
You've just tested. Oh, you've just finished. Okay, that's great. So if it's okay with you, I might loop in with you afterwards, and we can have a chat. But is anybody else here looking at it yet, or?
Yeah, Colin from Sydney. We were given access a couple of weeks ago, so
right.
We haven't released it to any academics. We're just sort of looking at it internally to start with.
Yeah. So
here at Adelaide, we've enabled it across all of our courses, so it can be used anywhere. So we've done the testing. We're pretty comfortable with it.
Okay, right. That's interesting. I thought it was still in beta through Turnitin themselves. I didn't know they'd released it out for production. So that's interesting. So for those of you who haven't had a look at it yet, the Turnitin Plagiarism Framework, currently Turnitin in Canvas is an external tool launch. So when you choose the external tool on Turnitin for an assessment, it will, as most of you may know, create an additional kind of window there, an inbox of such where students submit and teachers can go into Grade Center or Grade Mark, I think it's called. And it kind of runs alongside Canvas in that regard. But the new plagiarism framework, and I do have a screenshot, I'll just share. I stole this from the community, so thank you to whoever this is. But I'll just share that there, so maybe Stu can put it up on the screen. But the new Turnitin plagiarism framework, when you select a file upload now, if you have the new LTI enabled, what will happen is as you can see here, a plagiarism review box will appear. And then you have all of your Turnitin settings sitting within your assessment right there. So you can go in and set those settings. One of the great features of this is that you're now able to use Turnitin on a group assignment. Previously that wasn't, you weren't able to do that, and that caused a lot of problems in our university. Along with that, you're able to submit multiple files into Turnitin as well through this LTI. So you can submit multiple files, and Turnitin will bring back a score for each file as well. So some of you guys in this group are much further ahead than we are. So I'm probably not the best person to talk about it in this particular session. But I really just wanted to start a conversation with everybody about it, especially because they're asking for our feedback at the moment. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of get that conversation started and see who was using it and if we can have a chat. Yeah, and I'm just reading Stuart's comment. Yeah, that would be great. So Stuart's just written in the chat if we could arrange for Turnitin to run a session for the APAC community. I think that's a great idea. And the guys that run the sessions for Turnitin, they're amazing. So it would be really good to see that. And their release their feature release is really great as well. So I think we should do that, definitely.
So just some comments from Adelaide. So we've turned it on, and we're allowing the normal Turnitin to still be available.
Yeah.
And so this semester we'll try and get some feedback from staff about the two different versions. Our feeling at the moment is that for the student experience, the plagiarism framework or plagiarism review is actually a far better experience for students. But we recognise that a lot of our academics are really wedded to the Turnitin marking, and especially around the rubrics, and to be able to share comments within a group, which you can't do in SpeedGrade or in Canvas. So that's the two areas that we see from usability. The one bit that we've been talking to Turnitin about, and they've been reasonable so far. When we first put the LTI in, when you go to set up an external tool. So if you go back to set up the normal Turnitin, the first time we installed it, we had 4 Turnitin appear into the drop-down. And so we decided we can't use this unless you clean that up. They've now got it down to 2, and so you get one tool called Turnitin, and you can name whatever you like. The other ones we've called Turnitin Framework, and they've added a little text underneath it saying unavailable to use as external tool. Now, this framework and the Turnitin framework uses LTI2, and so you can't actually change it. We can't actually change that and remove that as a external tool within the within assignments, but we believe Turnitin could. So we're going back to Turnitin saying you need to look at how you've developed your LTI2, and so it does not appear as a external tool within Canvas, because that's just a bit confusing. But other than that bit of documentation, we're quite happy with it.
I'll just add something to that, Mark. Sorry. The other piece of the puzzle for us is the non-technical side. I'll always speak to the non-technical side, and that's we have we don't like the fact that it's called the plagiarism review. Obviously, Turnitin doesn't actually review plagiarism. It's a text matching software. Even on their website, it says we're not a plagiarism tool. Obviously, that wording comes from Canvas, within Canvas themselves. So one of the things that we're doing is our team is working with our training team, which sits in technology services, to actually run workshops and embed into our assignment training workshops and assessment workshops around what it means to get a similarity report back, and that this hasn't changed the features of the tool. It might be called plagiarism, but that's not what it's actually doing, and just reinforcing ways of interpreting a similarity report and what you might use it for.
I wonder if they would listen if we all spoke up about that, if they would think about changing it, at least in APAC, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether we could get something around a language pack to fix it. When we've talked to Instructure about this, their attitude is that the plagiarism framework has been out for over 6 months in the US, and that Turnitin are just slow to the party, and that products like Erkin and that have been available for a long time. So the American universities are quite happy with plagiarism review. But yeah, it would be something if more people were concerned about it, the voice, it would help to try and get that to change to similarity report, similarity review or something like that. But yeah.
Surely we could within the language. I mean, yeah, I think we should, try for that.
We've been able to, in most cases, use JavaScript in our template to change any text we want. So we haven't had a go at with this particular tool, but most other tools we've created our own text.
We haven't been brave enough to do that. We don't want to test it every 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know if we get to change this one with JavaScript.
Great.
I just read Amelia's chat. Great. That's cool. All right. Awesome. I'm so impressed that everybody's so far ahead on Turnitin. I think that's fantastic. We're a little late to the party, so I look forward to more chats about that and seeing if we can get something done. So, cool.
Awesome. And I will approach Turnitin and see what I can do about getting a session set up. What I'll do is I'll run it out of band of this normal 3 weekly session. So I might try and book it in about 3 weeks' time. That gives hopefully everyone enough time, and hopefully they'll let me record it for anyone who can't attend, so that we can get a bit of insights. Because I'll admit I haven't, other than what you've shown today, I've not seen it, and I'd be very curious too.
It's great. You should check it out.
I have one question in relation to the framework, and as Jayde knows, we have asked the colleges to start providing us feedback now that we've enabled it in our testing environment. And Jayde, I haven't spoken with you about this yet, but there is a comment in that spreadsheet from earlier today, I think, with an issue around submissions from Google Drive not currently supported via the framework. Has anybody else found that in their experience?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's correct because it's only on a file upload. And I think you'll find that because the Google Drive is not actually a file upload, what you're doing is effectively linking to a document in the Google Drive, that it will not work. My understanding from talking to Turnitin and to Instructure is that the next bit of work they're doing will allow text entry and the Google Drive and those other bits and pieces to also work in the plagiarism review, but that's to come.
Okay, thanks for that.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for that, Jayde. This is just a quick one. So I've posted on the community. I'd love to know anyone that's coming along to InstructureCon in Denver for 2018. It'd be great to catch up with you there, possibly have drinks one evening and catch up in person. So if you're coming along or thinking about coming along, please feel free to reach out in the thread in the APAC community. It'd be great to see you there. Equally, for those that can't make it, if you've got some questions that you'd like us to take along, I'm more than happy to help represent. So please, if you just want to use that thread online, more than happy to take those questions and see what we can do. I'll also be attending the Unconference on the Friday, which is kind of a time where we can, it's completely unstructured, so I can take the questions there as well. Alrighty, so one thing that I wanted to just reach out and ask is, does anyone have any presentations they'd like to do in a future session? You don't necessarily have to jump up now. I'm more than happy for you to just put it in the group chat. It's great when we have, and thank you to everyone that's presented the session today. That's absolutely wonderful. And by all means, if you have something that you want to share, something cool that you're doing, no matter how big or small, we'd certainly love to see it, because that's really what keeps these meetings going. The next meeting's on Friday, April the 13th. I have put the new session up already in the community, so you can go and start responding to that. Thank you to everyone that has signed up for the mailing list. So I have actually been manually inviting 130 people in the community each time to each of them, which is a little bit tedious. If you haven't signed up to the mailing list, please just ping me and I can give you the URL for that. Basically, that just means I can send out an invite to a single address, so it makes it significantly easier. I'm just seeing Mark saying we'd be happy to show an LTI we developed called Splat. Excellent. I will add that to the next agenda. Thank you very much. And as always, if you want to get involved, please let us know. So it's been great today to have a lot of people here that are new. It's been great to see you. Thank you very much for coming along. If you want to help out in these sessions, help out with setting them up, help out by running one of them, please reach out. I'd be more than happy to have more helpful people on board, and it'd be great to get some people in vet, K-12. I know we've got a couple of K-12ers who couldn't make it today. So it would be wonderful. Is there anything anyone else wants to raise right at the end? Actually, Leon, I remember, apologies, I've just remembered that Leon raised something that he wanted to discuss. Leon, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was just trying to find a button.
Awesome.
So we're using SCORM, and my colleagues have reported to me that every time a student takes a lesson, it just sends out an email, even when they've just started, and then they'll send one when they've finished. So I was just wondering if anyone's experienced that, or if there's any way to fix that.
I've done a little bit of stuff with SCORM. Kim Schutz here. I haven't heard of it, but the only thing I can think of is there wouldn't be an email somewhere embedded in the SCORM package itself, would there?
I don't think so. It's just like a normal Articulate package. So I'm just going to quickly try to show you just a quick email that it comes out.
Give me a second, Leon. I'll just make you a co-presenter so you can share your screen.
Okay.
So you should now be able to share your screen. And I just saw Amelia just said, could you just re-explain again? So hopefully you can do that when your screen shared, just to help the understanding.
Yep. Okay. So every time they start a SCORM activity, no matter, you know, how many times you start it or when you finish it, you'll get an email. So when you first started, you realize that you'll get this email, and it's misleading because it says your assignment blah blah has been marked score 0 out of, you know, out of whatever, and that's sort of a bit you know, a bit concerning for students. And when they're finished, they'll get one as well. So we've actually contacted Canvas support, but they said that it's the LTI that does this, and there's not much that we could do. So I'm just wondering if is this a normal behavior that someone else is experiencing?
Hi guys. Do you mind if I just quickly jump in here? Is that all right? I'm really close, sorry. There we go. Alrighty, so I just want to confirm a couple things. Because it is graded, it is going to be linked to some form of notifications, you know, when you submit something, because it's got the grade passback that you've built into it. I mean, there are other ways in which you can display SCORM content. So if it's ungraded and you don't want these kind of notifications, you can upload it in SCORM as an ungraded SCORM package. And then what you do is you make it so that when you go into the assessment and you change it and you edit it, you can make it so it loads in a new tab, and then you steal that URL and iframe it directly into a content page. So that way you don't have any issues with grade passback. And I've got the steps. If you want to email me, I actually have broken down the steps and explained it to a couple of clients before. So I'm more than happy to do that. But if you have it, unfortunately, if you have it linked as a graded assignment and they complete it, then yes, it will push notification preferences. That's just the way assessment activities work.
Okay.
Amelia, is that something you could possibly share into the community? If you've got it sort of pre-written, that you could maybe just put as a document in the APAC region for us?
Sure, more than happy to post it up. I've got steps, screenshots, stuff like that. So I might just articulate it a little bit better. Not an email, and I'm happy to post that up for you. Must all SCORM content be assessment related in Canvas? No, it doesn't have to be assessment related. If it's formative, you can just upload it into a content page using an iframe. I can't guarantee how that will look on other devices and things like that, but I know it works. So it's maybe something worth trialing in a sandbox course.
Okay, thanks, Amelia. That would be great if you could share that. And we'll do some testing.
Perfect. And if you have any questions, just post them up under the item that I upload. And then, yeah, I'm more than happy to respond where I can.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So we had a bit of a quick discussion in the chat, and I think we'll have to push quizzes.next to the next meeting. I will put in a block of time. Thank you very much for everyone who attended today. It's been lovely to see you. Thank you very much to Amelia for coming and joining us, and Jan. If there's nothing else, anyone, otherwise we've got sort of 3 minutes. If anyone would like to raise any final questions, otherwise it's been lovely to see you all, and look forward to seeing you at the next session on April 13th.